Was anyone burned at the stake in Salem? Nobody was burnt at the stake in Salem. In fact, nobody was ever burnt at the stake for the crime of witchcraft in colonial North America. The method of execution used during the Salem witch trials was hanging, which is how 19 out of the 20 victims were killed. The popular understanding the witches were burnt at the stake instead mostly comes from the European witch trials of the early modern period, where this method of execution was used. Witchcraft was generally treated as heresy across most of Europe. In some cases, such as in Scotland, witches were strangled to death, their bodies later burnt at the stake so that they could not be buried. In other cases, such as Germany, the convicted were burnt alive. In England, however, witchcraft was treated like any other felony offence, which meant that the punishment was not being burnt at the stake, but death by hanging. And so, the punishment for the crime of witchcraft in Salem was also death by hanging. The exact location of where these hangings took place has been disputed by historians over time. However, it is now known to be at Proctor's Ledge, at the base of Gallows Hill. The remaining victim, Giles Corey, was not hanged, but was tortured to death. Corey had pleaded not guilty to allegations of witchcraft. However, he had refused to answer whether he was willing to be tried by God and by country, which essentially meant that he rejected the authority of the court. He was then subjected to a torture method that involved lying under a wooden plank while increasing weight was stacked upon them in the form of rocks. Corey refused to cooperate with the demands of an unjust court, and he was pressed to death. So, while witches were burnt at the stake throughout many of the European witch trials, this was not the method of execution used in the Salem witch trials.